Hey guys, Yusef here. We get a lot of questions about caffeine, so I thought I'd give you a quick overview to help you make an informed decision of how to use it in your training. I'm going to go over what it is, how it works, pros and cons, and recommendations as well. So, caffeine is contained in coffee, pre-workouts, green tea, black tea, Coke, Diet Coke, yerba mate, guarana, and like Pro Plus caffeine pills as well. It looks like this, and the way it works, so adenosine is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, so it acts as a depressant for the central nervous system. What caffeine does is that it competitively binds to the same receptor that adenosine acts on without activating it. So you end up with this generalized lifting of the inhibitory effect, so the upregulation of other neurotransmitters and the stimulatory effect, as well as adrenergic effects as well. So some approximate values of caffeine. We have 100 milligrams in a cup of coffee, 25 milligrams in a cup of green tea, 45 milligrams in a cup of black tea, 40 in Diet Coke, and 43 per 100 grams of dark chocolate. So that's something that you wouldn't always suspect. Pros and cons of caffeine. So the three main benefits that I see: number one, fat loss, training quality, and pain tolerance. So fat loss, number one, it seems to have at a normal dose an average increase of your basal metabolic rate by 14 calories per hour while it's in your system, but no notable effect on appetite. Number two, the training quality effects seem to be via the improved mood and the perceived effort. So particularly in offsetting the effects of sleep deprivation when you're training heavy and sort of poor quality early morning training as well. The effects also seem to be more pronounced with higher rep stuff compared to, there's no measurable difference that I've been able to find in 1 rep max or time to exhaustion. Number three, pain tolerance. So that's also possibly one of the mechanisms of why it improves training quality, and the jury is still out on whether it reduces DOMS or not. There's some indication that it might, so potential benefit there too. The cons of caffeine include addiction, tolerance, withdrawal, and vitamin D receptor downregulation. So tolerance to caffeine does exist and seems to improve people's tolerance to stress in the long term, and that seems to be by a similar mechanism. In the animal studies, they found that chronic use downregulates the adrenergic response to stress. There is also a transient hypertension, but this reduces with repeated use. Addiction, so withdrawal effects also exist, and it's proportional to how much you are using. So generally these are headaches, worsened cognition, irritability, and tiredness, and that results from the compensatory kind of upregulation of adenosine receptors because they're being continually blocked, and so the body is then adapting to that. Number two, heart attack risk. It seems to reduce the risk of heart attack. Not something I think you wouldn't want to bank on it, but that's good news. And number three, it downregulates the vitamin D receptor. So there's mixed evidence for this, but generally, we think that it can decrease the expression of the vitamin D receptor in humans, and that can reduce the bone density and also the other effects of vitamin D as well. So this is a consideration, particularly if you are not getting much sunlight, then you're already at a disadvantage with vitamin D, and if you're having caffeine on top of that, you're reducing the ability to absorb the vitamin D, so it's not a great combination, and things like seasonal affective disorder can be quite sensitive to that as well. So number four, I know I only said three, but coffee is acidic, and you are at slightly higher risk of peptic ulcers, particularly if you're drinking black coffee on an empty stomach. So that's another thing to consider. And also the half-life of caffeine is between 5 and 8 hours, so that can delay your circadian rhythm if you're having it later on in the day. So my recommendations are use caffeine, use it sparingly, but it's a useful training aid to improve the quality of your training, particularly if you're doing early morning training. However, do go through periods of no caffeine for, say, 2 to 4 weeks so that you can reset your tolerance. Number three, remember to count black tea, green tea, coffee, and even chocolate. These are often things that can slip under the radar. And number four, to make sure that you do get a good night's sleep, avoid caffeine after 5 p.m. And if you are trying to use it pre-workout and you're training in the evenings, maybe reconsider the doses or try and have it as early on as possible. So if you're interested in more on this and it's piqued your interest, then have a look at examine.com, which is a great place to start. Looks at all of the pharmacology and interactions, side effects, and all of the available evidence on different supplements. So let me know if you want to see more of this stuff in the comments below and what you want me to cover. Speak to you soon.